Brendan Carr, that's Trump's FCC commissioner, sent another letter launching another investigation of his this week into NBC. And he has come under quite a bit of criticism in the last several months as he has launched investigations into ABC. And he quite infamously now held up the Paramount Skydance merger that has become this long tortured deal that is finally on the brink of actually being approved after he greenlit it from the FCC. But that has sparked a lot of questions about the FCC being, weaponized and politicized in the Trump era. This week, we saw the Freedom of the Press Foundation take some pretty extraordinary action. Take maybe a page actually out of Brendan's book here and send a letter to the DC bar arguing that Brendan, who is a lawyer, practicing lawyer himself, arguing that he is engaged in egregious misconduct. Oliver, you got a copy of this letter before anyone else from the Freedom of the Press Foundation. In it, they're saying that Trump's shakedown of Paramount could not have worked without a credible threat that the administration would not approve Paramount's merger with Skydance. So they're clearly connecting the dots here, saying that this has become like a weaponized, politicized agency. What are the ramifications here?
That's a good question. I don't know if there will be any. It's hard to imagine that the DC court, the disciplinary body here, is going to actually disbar Brendan Carr, which is what the Freedom of the Press Foundation is asking for. And they're saying there's plenty of evidence and reason to discipline Carr and to disbar him. Hard to imagine that they'll do that against the sitting FCC chairman, but I think it's quite incredible. They're basically, as you said, taking the tables and reversing them on Brendan Carr, and he's launched all these dubious, clearly politically motivated investigations into Trump's media critics, whether it's Paramount and CBS News or with Comcast and going after them, and because of NBC News's coverage, clearly it seems like, or Disney, all these companies, right? And so they are applying some pressure. I'm sure it's slightly annoying if you're Brendan Carr to now have to deal with this. And they're spotlighting the issue. Notably, though, Brendan Carr likes to text me generally late at night. And respond to a lot of these attacks or these criticisms that he gets, usually in a manner that's more befitting of like an internet troll. He often likes to respond in GIFs, that are satirical. In this case, I sent him a message on Monday evening, I think, when we reported this, and he never responded. He hasn't responded to this. So I generally assume when he does not respond, he's trying to, that's an intentional move on his behalf, and he's being careful. The only other time he didn't respond was to questions about the Paramount situation, and he was very careful, I think, about what he was saying there. So I can't imagine this is good news for him. And Freedom of the Press Foundation, we should say as well, has been sort of the only thorn in the side of Paramount and Brendan Carr, because they also have said they're going to file litigation, a shareholder lawsuit against Paramount for settling the $16 million lawsuit with 60 Minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it doesn't help that Carr has been public with his criticism of people like Stephen Colbert. And that's a pretty extraordinary place to be in as an administration official who is in a position to approve or disapprove of these deals, and coming out and saying, I think he sent a text to you, I think he also tweeted it, right? This attack on Stephen Colbert. He's not funny. His time is up. And it's hard to disconnect that viewpoint and making public statements from the reality that he's also in this position of authority. And so when Donald Trump now goes after Jimmy Kimmel and the comments that he makes on ABC, it's hard to see how Brendan Carr is also not receiving that message for when something might make its way to his desk from the ABC Disney Co. I'm very curious how this goes. We have seen other previous Trump administration officials over the years get disbarred over their actions during the Trump years. Rudy Giuliani famously was disbarred after some of his activities around, the post January 6th time, the comments that he made on Fox and right-wing media about whether or not the 2020 election was a valid one. You saw that all that Dominion and Smartmatic case activity around that. I'm not sure they have as strong of a case here, but I do think that the action that the Freedom of the Press Foundation is taking here, both this and with the lawsuit threat over this, over this merger, calling parts of this a bribe to get the deal across the line, I do think is a very interesting story that can continue to develop here. Do you think that any of this ends up harming the Paramount Skydance deal? I mean, we're days away now from David Ellison taking over.
No, I can't imagine that it does. But we should say that the way Brendan Carr is behaving is so outrageous and so against precedent that, I've talked to former FCC chairs and commissioners, both Republicans and Democrats, and they typically never say anything about their successors. They don't want to interfere with them. They let them do their own thing. Both Republicans and Democrats, and they have broken their silence repeatedly, actually, and gone after Brendan Carr and said that he is not behaving consistent with the way an FCC chairman should. And Anna Gomez, who is the lone Democrat on the FCC right now, she's a commissioner. And she has a decent, I guess, personal relationship with Brendan Carr, but she has said that the FCC has basically become an instrument of censorship being wielded by Donald Trump. And so you're right, when Donald Trump makes threats now against Jimmy Kimmel and other late night hosts, Jimmy Fallon, I think as well, you do wonder what message is being sent to Brendan Carr. And it doesn't take much apparently for him to launch these investigations. He just sort of he just launches them, and I think these companies are really they're not even sure how to respond. You saw that with Comcast this week. They issued a very non-combative response, I think, trying not to inflame the situation. But surely behind the scenes, they're probably infuriated and confused and not really sure how to navigate this moment, because Brendan Carr has fully, every other agency, the FCC has been fully weaponized now for Donald Trump, and you're seeing him use it to punish Donald Trump's critics. And the only person who has not faced really any action from the FCC is Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch is skating by, nothing to see there, I guess. There's no reason to investigate Rupert Murdoch. Fox is the only one that has been left unscathed. Every other organization, every other company has basically had an investigation launched against them. And that's obviously notable. I wonder if that's actually going to continue, given that Donald Trump has now sued the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch personally over that Jeffrey Epstein story. So we'll see if that stays. If that maybe, I could see, I guess, maybe Brendan Carr now, if Donald Trump gives the green light, maybe he does go after Rupert Murdoch. But up until now, Fox has been immune from all the FCC actions, which is notable and I think speaks to the political nature of these probes. Thank you for watching Power Lines. For more analysis and insight, subscribe to our YouTube channel down below, like this video, and you can watch more of us right over here.